Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Pile of Ways podcast. My name is Alex Vidalis. The Pile of Ways podcast, well, we are an audio program. We center around artistry, technology, community, and commerce. We ask artists and musicians to come on our show, tell their personal stories, because we believe that it will further embed us in the community with their success, and our success will be further embedded with them. On the Pile of Ways podcast today, we have Jack on Fire. Jack on Fire, responsible for some big DC hits. You know, this is an exciting time, an exciting episode, because when I first started doing the show, longtime fans will remember, I used to play a lot of music. I used to do sort of like almost like a DJ sort of thing, and I did enjoy doing it. It was a lot of work. I didn't want to spend as much time perfecting my craft as was required to kind of make it really shine, and so I took a step back, and I actually stopped. I also stopped playing music because iTunes is a little bit restrictive about getting permission. But anyone who's hearing this episode should know I have direct permissions from Jason from Jack on Fire to play music on today's show. And you're going to hear the song Condos. You're going to hear the song I'm Not Your Fucking Baby, and you're going to hear Burn Down the Brixton, the maybe the most famous Jack on Fire song of them all. Jack and Chrissy were wonderful, wonderful guests, and they spoke at a great length about a lot of wonderful things and very interesting things. And so for that reason, we're actually not going to spend a lot of time with me yabbering on during the middle parts. You're going to hear me maybe come in and break in, make a point or two, but I'm going to try to get as much of the actual interview into this show as possible, because I think it was a great one, and I think that Jack and Chrissy have some important things to say. Jack, that's actually his stage name. Jason, I think Jason and Chrissy have a lot of important things to say, and we also wanted to make some room for the great music that they put together that has a bit of a statement behind it. So let's get straight into this interview with Jack and Chrissy. I did it again. With Jason and Chrissy of Jack on Fire. Thanks for joining us today.
Hi, I'm Chrissy. I'm in Jack on Fire.
Hi, I'm Jason. I'm in Jack on Fire as well. What do you do, Chrissy, in Jack on Fire?
I sing. That's pretty much it. What about you, Jason?
I sing, kind of, and play guitar, and work on the backing tracks.
So we have 2 out of the 3 members today on
Yes.
Jack on Fire. And so originally you guys used to refer to yourselves as Jack and Jackie and Jacques.
Correct.
I like it, though. I like it.
And we will continue to do so. Because our songs are, and kind of the entire effort of the band is really highly theatrical, so let's have these characters, and that's the thinking behind it, I guess.
Tell me the story of Jack on Fire. How did it come to be?
That is a good question. My last band split up, and I didn't want to do what we did, which was just a traditional 4-piece rock lineup. I wanted to do something either huge, like kind of like a Fela Kuti 9 or 10-piece band, or just like a really stripped down 2-person band. Obviously, it's logistically impossible, and I didn't even try to do the first thing. So, our dearly beloved and missed friend Christoph and I started Jack on Fire. We played one show and then went in to make some recordings. It sort of fell by the wayside for a bit, and then it picked up again. And we invited Chrissy to play with us one time, just to cover Rebel Girl and Oh Come On.
Correct.
Because I think we had seen the Julia Room play right before that, right?
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah, and, like Chrissy and I were geeking out about Kathleen Hanna, and I was like, well, do you want to come and play some songs with us? And she did, and absolutely destroyed it. And so the next day we were like, okay, so do you want to actually be in the band? said yeah.
The songs and stuff, I'm just guessing here. It seems like there's a bit of a political edge to some of your songs.
Did you pick up on that?
It's subtle.
It's really you really got to read between the lines.
The propaganda that you gave me in the pre-interview gave me a little bit of a tip off. I like it. In terms of the political content, and actually, it's not political. I would say it's more social. It's like a social responsibility, kind of message, right? Because there is like an Andy Harris song, but it's not necessarily about like politics, or I guess it is, isn't it?
Yes. Not the sort of politics I think you're talking about, the sort of binary way that politics are usually discussed, Republicans versus Democrats, progressives versus conservatives, whatever. But yeah, these politicians who, Andy Harris and Trent Franks, two of the people we've overtly written about, are, trying to enforce their own political ideas on DC. If a Democrat was trying to do the same thing, then we'd probably go after them too.
Sure. There's a sticker I saw about a Democrat that you made, Muriel Bowser.
Oh yes, we made those.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm not saying we put them up anywhere.
Never. I haven't seen them around the city at all.
No,
to be honest with you.
No.
Just everywhere.
Who knows who could have been doing that?
What's Jack on Fire is like? What's your purpose? Do you have a purpose?
Chrissy, what do you think?
Besides down with the bastards, up with the party.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
That's more of a slogan than a purpose, but I think, we have kind of talked about before the sneakily getting people to shout things that they normally wouldn't shout, even if they already believe in them, but like creating a rallying cry and an anthem for people to like actually get angry about things that they sort of shruggingly don't enjoy but accept.
Right. It's almost like filling in the blank when someone's like, well, what are you going to do? And you're like, well, here is at least one thing you can do, right? You can shout this really loud.
And you can dance to it, too.
And it's cathartic. Yes.
Always.
What's the importance of that?
Yeah, well, that's the slogan, but, I don't know, make people laugh and dance. That's what it always goes back to. Like, if you have laughed or danced, then we've done our jobs, right? I think.
Sure. But in some of the cases, these are social issues that are, I would say, not just important to us personally. We're a little bit in the same mindset in that way, but they're also of significant importance in today's day and age, right? Like, I'm Not Your Baby. That's, tell me where that comes from.
Every time I go outside, it makes me want to run and hide. 'Cause when I'm out there on the street, I'm just a piece of fucking meat. Every single fucking day, it never seems to go away. Hear the whistle, hear the kiss of everything who thinks I'm his. Well, hi, you sexy lady. I'm not your fucking baby. I'm not your fucking baby. I'm not your fucking baby. Don't say that shit to me again. Not your fucking sweetheart. I'm not your fucking darling. I'm not some sexy candy or your goddamn mamacita. I'm not your little fucking whore. Oh, I can be a cunt, sure, but as much as you own the space, I'm gonna throw that shit back in your face. Oh, hi, you sexy lady. I'm not your fucking baby. You look tasty. I'm not your fucking baby. Shake it for me, mommy. I'm not your fucking baby. Smile for me, girlfriend. Don't say that shit to me again. Hi, you sexy lady. We're not your fucking baby. You look tasty. We're not your fucking baby. Mommy. We're not your fucking baby. Smile for me, girlfriend. Don't say that shit to us again.
I'm Not Your Baby. That's, tell me where that comes from.
Oh, I'm a woman who has walked down a public street before. So I feel like a lot of our songs, whether they are more joking or more serious, like I'm Not Your Fucking Baby, come out of me and Jason sitting around tables like this and talking about just what actually bothers us. So that's where that song came out of. Just
So
a lot
let's
of
assume,
frustration.
just for fun, that the listener, that there's probably a listener out there who maybe doesn't understand what it is we're talking about, you know, because, you know, you can say I'm a woman and I've walked down the street, but tell us a little bit of the insight into like the things that you have to deal with.
Yeah, sure. Just like people yelling at you and acting like you're public property and that you, I don't know, want their feedback ever. It's a really frustrating thing, but a reality that I know not only I have to deal with, but a lot of people do. So I think it's hard. It's a hard reality to live with, and you know, we've talked before also about like there's kind of a no-win when you're stuck in that situation, and so our sort of outlet for me and for anyone who has experienced that is to sort of let out everything that you want to actually happen in a moment when someone yells something gross at you on the street. You know, avoiding confrontation in the moment, it might be your best bet or feel right at that time, but then you can like go home and kind of let it all out once you put on a Jack on Fire record. But that's where that song comes from specifically.
And I mean, one of the most angering and unfortunate truths about it is that was probably the easiest song to write because we talked about it, and I think I sat there and just jotted down all the shit that you've heard walking around, and those became lyrics.
Yeah.
I think when you take it away from the term, and I apologize really, really big time. I actually refer to it in the next segment as catcalling, which I don't think is probably the most appropriate way to refer to it. I think it denotes some sort of cat involved when, and actually it's not even a gender specific issue. It's an issue that goes across all the lines, men, women, people who don't identify with either gender. It's just street harassment is what it is. And I really enjoyed the talk that's going to come up in the next segment with Chrissy, Jason, and I, where we talked specifically about street harassment and why we think that it's still an issue today, even though, and Jason refers to an article that was written in 2007, but I swear to you, I'm pretty sure there was an article even written maybe even 5-10 years prior to that about this very issue. It probably was called catcalling at that point. I apologize to anyone who wrote for the city paper who didn't call it that, but the important thing is that it's an important topic. They made a song about it, and it's a funny song, it's a great song, it's a punk song, and now you're going to hear a discussion between Jason, Chrissy, and myself about street harassment and why we think it's still an issue, and all the bullshit that's kind of wrapped up in it.
I mean, that's also part of the value, to use your word, of what we're trying to create is it comes from anger, but we try to use the songs to we try and create anthems that will make people feel better, but also that can be used. Like I told Julia, who a friend of ours who works for Cass, at a barbecue a couple months before he came out, and I was like, "Hey, we're writing you guys a theme song." And she's like, "Oh, cool!" And she sings on it. You can hear her on the last chorus, singing in unison with you. And Abortion Hooray! It was the same deal. Like all the money that came from the sales of that on Bandcamp went straight to the DC Abortion Fund, which is in the group we work with, and donate money to.
Why do you think, just as a quick aside, and I mean, we don't have to go too far into it because I don't know if any of us actually have the answer. Why do you think that, because I mean, the catcalling, we'll call it the catcalling issue, because I mean, that's kind of like what I think that kind of personifies it a little bit, right? Why is that still?
Well, actually, no, can we use the phrase street harassment?
Sure.
Because catcalling, I don't know. It just seems like, oh, it's something that the boys do. It's like, oh, I got
sure.
No,
and it can be
it's harassment,
and it can actually be across different lines.
As we've talked about before, I think it's the same thing. Like, no one is going to identify as a street harasser, but some people will be like, yeah, I mean, I'm catcalled because it's harmless and it's what boys do. So
yes.
It's what boys do.
So I feel like there's value in using both in either terms, but the problem with catcalling is that it can turn into larger forms of physical harassment. So
most certainly,
exactly,
somewhere in between
blocking pathways. And
I think street harassment it describes the problem more accurately in that it's an act of violence.
Sure. Well, and just in this particular conversation, we can call it in street harassment, but I remember reading an article in the city paper probably like 20 years ago, maybe about it. I'm pretty sure maybe 20 years ago. And even now...
Oh, I know what you're talking about. I think it was 2007, actually.
Yeah, okay.
Was it?
And it was
Yeah, my friend Mark Masters relinked to it pretty recently, I think. It doesn't matter.
But why is it still, why do you think do you have any theories? I mean, I know that's not our expertise, at least not my expertise. I'm not a sociological major. But why do you think it's still an issue in today's day and age? Why does it still happen? And fairly prevalent.
I think kind of because what we were just arguing about before, like no one considers themselves like a harasser, and the way that it's normalized is like by boys will be boys, the kind of mentality. And so people don't really understand that there's any harm. They think that, they're going out of their way to pay a woman a compliment and don't think about how it might be making her feel, especially because you might be coming from an honest place, just trying to make someone's day better. But if you multiply, you don't know the motives of anyone else that they have interacted with and just how much it's a problem. So I think a lot of people think that they're the exception to the rule. And then there are a lot of people that just feel, men mostly, that feel very entitled to women in public spaces. And it's a really hard thing to either convince people that they do or convince them that it's wrong. Because it's harder to see as opposed to, the glass ceiling or domestic violence or something like that. Those seem like bigger causes that inflict more immediate, succinct types of trauma on people. And street harassment, it's so someone bothers you when you're on your way to work. That's not as big of a deal as X, or it's not as serious as Y. So that's why I'm really glad that there are organizations like Hollaback and CAS that focus solely on it, because I don't know, I feel like there are so many issues that
Sure.
it's not the most attention-seeking one.
Right.
But it's also part of a spectrum of the issues that you just listed to. I mean, to borrow a favorite Republican phrase, it's a gateway drug.
Right.
It's the entrance point for that. For
Sure.
The sort of stuff that will lead to physical violence and God knows what else.
Right. There's an immaturity factor there too, which is, and and alcohol plays a factor, and I would say that it like you said, it's a spectrum. There's not any one situation that is an example of everything working in that way. There's the top of the escalator 80-year-old dude, who's harassing the ladies. There's the, and I was not to correct you, but it's definitely something that I've seen not just from men. I've seen it from women and men, and even in the LGBT community. That stuff goes on, and it's really just has to do with the power. It has to do with someone who feels as though that they can expel that power out and then get a response that they want back. It's basically it's a lack of kindness.
Yeah.
Is what it is, right?
Well, and also it's hard because it varies from person to person. It bothers me when someone says anything about me or my body or my looks on the street and I don't know you. But for some people, it might genuinely make their day.
Right.
I don't love when strangers come up to me and talk to me at a bar, but that's why some people go to bars.
Sure.
So I think that's why it's also a hard issue to gauge. Whereas no one wants to be in an abusive relationship. But that's a whole other thing. But
but we're about to go down a rabbit hole.
I was gonna say, let's not go down that one. But I think there are some people that genuinely especially once you take it slightly less out of public than out on the streets,
Right.
In bars, there's a really fine line, and it varies from person to person, what counts as harassment and what counts as meeting a friendly stranger.
Right.
So it can be a little bit harder to identify and pinpoint. In addition to, I think it's a little bit harder to demonstrate and see the effects that it has on people's lives.
But I think you also nailed it too, that it emanates from a basic lack of kindness and empathy.
Right. Tell me about Condos.
Well, that song has a little bit of a different tone. The song is maybe a minute long.
Condos here, condos there. Condos
on the ground level.
It's impossible to do for one vocalist to do that song without passing out from asphyxiation.
And then stifling laughter for that long as well.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Tell me about the place that it comes from.
I will tell you exactly where it comes from. We organized and put out a compilation toward the end of the last year called Sounds Like Love Compilation Number 1, and we got a whole bunch of people we know to contribute one song each. I'm pretty proud of the result. We got the band Puff Pieces to chip in a song, and I around that time, I just Googled Puff Pieces and I was reading the copy that I guess Mike, I don't know who wrote. Somebody Puff Pieces wrote a copy describing the band to say that they were a response to condo crazed culture, that exact phrase. And I was just biking around and somehow that phrase got stuck in my head, and then it got boiled down to condos, and then condos. And so I think that it's sort of, with the end result was like the theme song for that, for condo crazed culture, and it's just this like little 40-second long circus ditty, which is what I think condo development is kind of like.
What's going on with all the condos? Why do you think the city is going crazy with condos?
That's a really, really good question.
I mean, we're allowed to say anything we want, you know? We're not experts.
That's what sort of boggles the mind about it. What's the end result here?
Yeah.
What's the long view? Because you know the people who are going to buy a condo, they're gonna flip it in 5 years. Nobody is going to buy a condo and then build a family there. It's not going to be good for the city. There's not going to be a stable tax base. What do you think? Why is this happening? I wish I knew more about these developers' motivations other than, you know, making the quick money, which is obvious.
Someone-
I was going to say, I think it boils down to exactly that. I think it's just one thing.
Yeah, but it's mystifying, you know, and our city's being destroyed in the process.
Developers have no interest in a city planning. You know, that's up to the city planners, I think, to have the long view. And, you know, all they see is that check, you know, and I think especially when you look at something like DC, which, you know, had a huge amount of growth. I mean, I think there's something like 600 cranes in the city right now, which is insane when you think about it. I just made that number up. But it's a lot.
What?
It's a lot, right?
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that number feels like you're lowballing it when you're walking around the city.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
But the reality is that if you don't have, and this is isn't me. This is economic theory. You can't have all upper to not even middle upper class condos in a city. You can't. There's no one left to work in the city. You know, if everyone is of a particular tax base, you know, then what are you going to ship people in from Oxon Hill? Mm-hmm. You can't do it. There's no metro out there. You know, what are you going to take that green line all the way in? No, you're not. You know, and eventually, and those people are going to get priced out too, because the rate all it's going to take is just right across the river, and then push those people out too. And then are they going to come from Waldorf, you know?
Yeah.
Probably not.
Well, and that's why I don't understand who's moving into all of these places.
Nobody from what it looks like,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Because so many of them are having trouble, like even the like big middle finger condo that you Instagram today.
Yeah, God,
like
the super pop-up.
they have
one
had
on,
to decrease the price of that like 3 different times because no one wants to live in it because it's got such like a bad reputation. It's the one on
It's on V
Street?
between 10th and 11th.
Yeah.
And
So
it's absolutely. I put it on Instagram earlier. It's this one pop-up condo on that block of V Street. It started as it's in a row of houses, all of which are 2 stories. This one used to be a 2-story building. It's now 5, 6, something like that. So it's just this giant wedge just sitting there. And I put it on my Instagram, and my sister put it perfectly. She said, that is hilariously hideous. Mm-hmm. Which it is, but it's also pointless. Mm-hmm. Because nobody's going to live in that thing.
Yeah.
It's also built like shit, too. And a lot of that stuff is built so quick and so poorly. I mean, it's meant to be flipped and then destroyed and then built back up again.
Cinder block and plywood layers.
Yeah, it's weird, man.
You know?
It's weird.
They're just farted on top of these buildings that actually had some consideration.
Yeah. No, I like it.
Yeah, you know, oh cool. Let's just gut everything except for the brick and the solid foundation, and then put this utterly disposable like sub college freshman housing level piece of crap there.
Right.
I don't understand. I mean, I understand it obviously in the quick money sense, but it really appalls and disgusts me.
Condos, 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 condos. Who wants a condo? You want a condo. You get a condo. I love that song. And I don't love what's happening to the city, but I guess I don't look at it as good or bad. I just look at it as people trying to make money and being short-sighted. And that comes out, I think, in this discussion a little bit. But, it's funny when you see all the places going up and we talk about it. Who the fuck is going into all these places? I don't see them filling up. I see them barely getting by, but maybe I'm not paying attention. Maybe it's not for me. Maybe I'm one of the ones who's trying to get, or they're trying to edge out. Who knows? Fuck it. Who cares, right? No, of course someone cares. Jack on Fire cares, and they're going to make some music about it. And for that, we are extremely appreciative. Thank you, Jack on Fire, for being in this interview. And thank you, Jack on Fire, for continuing to make music that captures a little bit of the zeitgeist, the feeling within the city about some of the stuff that's going on. Let's get back to more of the interview. Oh, and before I forget, Andy Harris. Andy Harris needs to smoke some weed. Let's talk real quick about Andy Harris. Sure. Tell me about the Andy Harris song. We're going through all the hits.
Yes, we are.
My favorites.
Basically, I woke up the morning after the vote on the continuing resolution, and my girlfriend said, "Dude, you got to finish writing the Andy Harris song now." I was like, "No," and yes, of course, he introduced the measure meant to prevent all funding from happening. I was like, "That son of a bitch." So I'd already had that sort of very slow, woozy guitar line written. I wrote the lyrics on the way into work, recorded them in the office toilet, right in my iPad, and then put it out. And, well, the rest is history. Hazy history.
Well, and from your perspective, the meddling that goes into that, and I have my own assumptions, so in this interview is about you, not me. What do you think is going on there? Why is Andy Harris taking a stand against marijuana in the Washington D.C.?
I will tell you exactly what my thoughts are. I looked up his campaign contributions, and he got more than $300,000 from the medical industry, from associations, from companies, and I think that it's his payola to make sure that marijuana, and especially medical marijuana, doesn't happen. Mm-hmm. That's it. That, and DC is such an easy target. He's making a political stand, same as Trent Franks. They're trading on, the people in the city, they're all high and getting abortions left and right. We must stop it. And it's never going to happen. None of these measures, well,
Yeah.
Oh God, I hope I didn't curse it. So, yeah, it's to use DC as a punching bag again, and gladly it failed.
Right.
I mean, we could smoke a joint right now and it'd be fine.
Right.
And we should smoke a joint. Let's make a joint, name it Andy Harris, and then smoke it.
Smoke the shit out of it. But I agree with you.
Because fuck you, Andy Harris. Andy Harris needs to smoke some weed. Put down that pen, man. A joint's what you need. The way you meddle with DC really harshes our mellow and makes your belly look more than a little yellow. I know black voters scare you to death, and your constituents largely prefer meth. But just listen to this. advice in this song? Let us run our biz. And here, man, have a hit from this bong. Solo. Some further points in this second verse. Whatever. I'm stoned. There's no second verse.
Tell me. So,
We have to remember to say at some point that really steams my asparagus. Have you heard that?
No.
It's a Catherine McCarthyism. She told Sarah, and yeah, we need to say that and credit her properly because
Yes.
that's beautiful.
I'm gonna say that all the time.
what? So with the songs, it's letting off some steam, some asparagus steam, if you will.
Oh, yeah.
Is there a certain amount of do you feel like a responsibility to make some of these songs?
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, the songs that you've inquired about, Condos, the Andy Harris song, the Trent Frank song, and Burn Down the Brixton, I mean, those were all direct responses to events. And, I just couldn't help it.
But from the direct,
oh my God, they named a burger with free meats on it after DC's most famous vegan,
and I see it from the direction from a personal aspect. You guys are these things irritate us on a personal level. These are things we find annoying. But it seems and I'm not trying to put words in your mouth. You can tell me I'm wrong and say this, right? But it seems like it's not just about you personally. It's about a world that you see, that could be better. It's a vision you have for something else. You don't have to speak too much about that, but what is it about that? Why this art form? Because it's not just this art form. You guys also take personal responsibility in doing things with organizations too.
And I think this is we found a good marriage of the two. I think just focused on the music, we've found a way that we can kind of, in my line of work, it's called rapid response. When you do advocacy that happens within a couple of hours or a day or two of what's actually happening, we kind of have a rapport where something happens, we're okay, we're doing this. Okay, we don't have a big, huge, fancy recording setup.
Right.
So let's get this out while the iron is still hot and people are still paying attention, which works really well.
Right. And it's also pre-planned. I mean, abortion hooray, that we knew the March for Life was coming up, and oh my God, this city is about to be overrun by Jesus freaks who hate women. I'll say it. And let's make them a little Jack on Fire style greeting card. Mm-hmm. And going back to the rapid response thing, I mean, what the version of Burn Down the Brixton that went up on the Bandcamp last September, that was a demo. We'd gone into the studio, had we'd gone into the studio. There were some real quote unquote recordings happening. And I just had GarageBand demos of those songs and the other songs that were in the process of being recorded. And then the Washington Post article about the Ian MacKaye burger came out, and I was like, ugh, God damn it. And I just put up the demo of Burn Down the Brixton, saying fuck the Hiltons.
Burn down the Brixton, send it to its doom. Then we'll have a milkshake at the satellite room. Right for the hills back in '68. Then they smell of money to a master race. They came from Virginia, fraternal thieves. They forged, they plowed, and sowed their seed.
a shot of Fireball.
Came out and I was like, ugh, god damn it. And I just put up the demo of Burn Down the Brixton, saying fuck the Hiltons. And then it all just sort of emerged from there. And then, of course, as Chrissy pointed out, our production values are, at least up till now, are dog shit. But
it's not mine.
Right, but we can. But that's.
They sound good. Your demos sound good.
Thanks. they can sound better. The next album is going to actually sound like an album, but we'll talk about that later, maybe. Yeah. But going back to what you asked, why this form? I mean, that's punk rock. It doesn't matter if it sounds good or not. You just slap it together, get it out there, and I don't know. We found a thing. It works, so let's keep doing it.
When we talked I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Go.
No. Oh, and then I was going to say sort of like the other piece of the medium is I think that there are tools like Bandcamp and just being at shows and all of the other media we produce, like zines and buttons and stuff like that enable us to actually work towards a solution rather than calling out problems, which I think is an excellent twist that we can put on, like, to actually make some impact rather than just like being snarky and funny and, laughing and dancing are great, but we also are sitting down and being serious right now because we are serious about this stuff. So
yes,
I think we found a good blend of a lot of different ways to express ourselves.
Now, we were sitting down and talking and being serious, but in no way, shape, or form is anyone ever calling for someone to actually burn down the Brixton. It is a song that is meant to be funny, and it is calling out a specific larger issue. No one wants any violence towards the Hiltons or the Brixton or any of their organizations. No, period. End of sentence. In the next segment, you're going to hear us talk about whether or not we believe art in the city is being valued at the appropriate level. I think it's a great little discussion, and I was very excited. It's one that I love to have on the Pilot Waves podcast because I think it's extremely relevant, and I think it plays right into the miss that's happening in terms of art's actual purpose is to change the world first, and whether or not there's actually any money to be made in that. Do you, and this is the Pilot Wave saying, now your guys saying, this is just my question. Do you think there's a disconnect between the value of art and what people are willing to pay for it in the city? Oh my God, yeah. Not just here, anywhere. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Art is considered valueless. Artists are, they're considered valueless. If you get your painting or your song up anywhere, you're expected to be thankful for it. Mm-hmm. I'm also going to go on the record and say, fuck Amanda Palmer. Your musicians should not be paid with beer and hugs. They should be paid. The end. But that's where we are now. Mm-hmm. Creative work is not considered work. Right.
Yeah. But then I think there's like a weird flip side of that where like talking to my friends in other cities and even just looking at venues in other places, like shows at 930 Club and Black Cat sell out faster than you can keep track of and are like, it's like twice as expensive to see people at 930 Club and Echo Stage and all of those places. So there's like a weird commodification of certain types of music at certain types of places.
Right.
But I feel like
$200 for Prince tickets for a benefit show is kind of hilarious to me.
And right. It's not necessarily because people in DC appreciate art more. It's because it's more of a commerce market driven thing that like now bros like will go to the 930 Club because it's right by the Brixton. But yeah, I still think that everything that Jason said totally holds true about like valuing creation and art.
And I'm glad that you brought up the 930 Club because I guess it was a year and a half ago now. We saw Savages at the 930 Club. They killed. They're amazing. We were just sort of standing around with our jaws agape for a good long while after the show. But I'd seen them a couple months prior, also at Rock and Roll Hotel. Both those shows, if they weren't sold out, were pretty damn close to it. The places were packed. That was their year. They had a great album that I imagine for a band of that stature sold really well. The tour went well. And then I read an essay by Jenny Beth shortly thereafter that said that, my dad's an accountant. I made about as much as he did that year. So that's like a fat year. And you've made, you made a working Joe's salary in that year. What are you going to do the next year? You can't keep doing that. You can't keep having like lightning rod critical success albums. You can't keep having tours like that. So what are you going to do? How are you going to pay the bills? I mean, is that where we are right now? Where a band that hits, that big for again an indie rock band or whatever, that they make like a good wage and that's it?
I don't have a good answer for that. I mean, for me, in the show, I truly believe that, that the world can be changed through art. I don't know if there will ever be money in that. I really don't.
Frank and Jean by the coffee machine. How was the weekend? How's the wife and kids? And then it's time for the Monday grind. In the cube they sit, cataloging dicks. Can I have my dick pics back today? No way. Memory banks full of wanks, lost civil liberties, terabytes of fingerlies. Frank and Jean, collate them all. Federal databases full of balls. Can I have my dick pics back
But you asked like what our other outlet would be if we didn't have Jack on Fire, and besides drinking, I couldn't mix with drinking, but I have been working with a really awesome organization that I think would become my other outlet if I were doing that. And I've started studying Python and web development with an organization called Hear Me Code. As in, I am woman, hear me code.
Right.
And it's this one amazing woman who just decided to like teach a couple of her friends this coding language around her kitchen table. And it has grown to, I think there are like 1,200 people on the listserv now and like clamoring to get into these classes that she runs still for free. And it's like, it's super badass because everyone that's involved, or a lot of people that are involved, are like very activist minded, like do hack for good kind of things. And seeing that makes me have a lot more faith in technology, that people aren't just learning this kind of stuff to try and like create the next Uber or the next awful startup conglomerate, but that people like from my little community here went up to like Hack for Baltimore to try and like help nonprofits that are getting, donations for bail money or whatever they're doing up there. So I think that there is a lot of good that can be had out of technology if it's in the right hands. So Hear Me Code is my big shout out because they're great.
I'm always amazed because for me, I don't need 75,000 apps to tell me, about like where to get some food or something like that.
Yeah.
Right? But I am amazed at some of the things that come across, from a creative aspect of like, merging paint and colors and music creation tools and, things that show people like the simplicity of just having a creative time that isn't just like, GarageBand even is a little bit deep. But something like, the BDC Beat Club is something that, like, it's just step right up to the thing, hit a button, and it suddenly makes music. More apps like that would really make me happy. And stuff that explains to people, certain things like Duolingo is a great one. I don't know if you've done that. It's an amazing way to learn a foreign language. Stuff like that. Those are the apps that we need more of, not so much,
sure.
This is, I don't know.
How to keep you from having to dial a phone number, which is if you want to have a successful app, just like invent something so that people don't have to make a phone call.
Yeah.
Because that's what Uber does. That's what Seamless does. That's what ZocDoc does. Like all of these huge companies that are successful. It's like you could make a doctor's appointment by just calling their office, but now you don't have to talk to a human person.
I'm always amazed by
I hate that.
Yeah. I like the little
hate that
social
so
interaction.
much. Yeah. That's see, that's the bad side of technology, isn't it? Well, call the fucking pizza place. To talk to another person. That's what technology shouldn't get in the way of that.
I'm always amazed when you talk to a friend or an enemy, whoever, right? And they always say something like, that person always starts asking me about how I am and how my day is. They're trying to have a real conversation with you, guy.
Yeah.
Like they're.
How dare they try to make a connection with you, one human being to another?
However, having lived in the South for 4 years, sometimes you just want to buy eggs and go home.
Takes the
But yes, generally.
What about you?
Yeah.
What do you want to plug?
Well,
Our show.
Oh, sure.
Oh shit! Yeah. Yeah. See, I was.
The reason we're doing this today.
You guys are in a band?
Two shows actually. We're playing with Nice Breeze, who are an excellent band. You should check out their songs "Transparency" and "I'm No Joan of Arc" on their SoundCloud. We're playing with them at Galaxy Hut.
They were on the show. Nice Breeze
Yes,
was on the show.
I know. I listened to that episode. We're playing with them May 25th. If you want to truck out to Arlington, we'll maybe give you some Fireball swag. And we're also playing here at the Space Lab A on Saturday, June 20th, with a brand new band. They're going to be making their debut performance. They're called Booby Trap. It's Christina Caterucci, Kit Wagner, and two people whose names elude me. Sorry, please don't take it personally.
We'll edit those names in.
Yes, and two people. Yeah, and that's gonna be awesome. And we would like to announce our forthcoming album, "We Sass, You Shake Your Ass," electro-punk from outer space ditties about topics of interest ranging from misogyny to police brutality to. Did you know that gentrification doesn't exist?
Yeah, we talked about that. I'm always surprised. Call it anything you want to. The fact is that there are a certain kind of people who are moving out of the city and a certain kind of people who are moving into the city, and there's a very purposeful intent behind that. And I'm not saying it's evil, because I don't think it comes from an evil place. I think it comes from a greedy place, of
Oh, yes.
what we were saying earlier, which is, guess what, middle and lower class, you gots to go, and the DC, it's not just something that's happening in the DC area.
Oh, yeah.
It's happening all across the world, period.
Oh, for sure.
And depending on the area you go to, that depends on the type of people that it will be. I'm sure it's different in the South versus the North, but it's always the poor people who are getting the shaft, and the middle class too.
Yeah.
The poor people in the middle class are of the greatest importance in any city to help it survive. I don't care, and this is just me proudly proclaiming it with no economic data to back me up at this point. Maybe I'll have some the next time we talk. But the fact is, no city or community can exist with only rich people. You need people who are we'll call it a beginner class. You hate to even use the word poor, because it comes with sort of this weird connotation that's wrong, but it's not. There are people who aren't going to make as much as everyone else, and they do a specific set of jobs most times, and middle class is the same way, and it's the same with the upper middle class and the upper class. There are these socioeconomic barriers that prevent people from moving up, and unfortunately that usually means that there are certain jobs that had to be taken by those people. It's weird. But all these things have to work together in order to form a society, with everyone helping each other in as many different ways as possible. That's all we have for you this week. I really appreciate you spending the time to listen. Reach out to us, culture@pilotwaves.com, or reach out to us on the Facebook. We'd love to hear from you. Just be good to each other, most importantly.